Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Go Bold. My name is Jody Atariwala and I'm your host. And we're coming to you from Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt in British Columbia. CFB Esquimalt is home to Canada's Pacific Naval Fleet. And in Season 1 and Season 2 of Go Bold, we introduced you to some of the men and women who serve with the Pacific Fleet. And we also introduced you to some of the processes that they need to go through before serving on board Royal Canadian Navy ships. So for this season, we're going to introduce you to some of the boats and some of the ships that are part of the Pacific Fleet and the Royal Canadian Navy. So this includes things like port protection or force protection boats, patrol vessels, maritime coastal vessels, submarines, frigates, and the largest ship of all, which actually isn't in the Royal Canadian Navy, but it is in service to the Royal Canadian Navy, and that is a replenishment or supply ship. But the better name for it is a combat support ship, which is exactly what it is. So welcome to Season 3 of Go Bold, and we hope you enjoy this series. So, hey everybody, welcome to Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt. My name is Jody Atariwala and I'm your host. And today we are visiting with Master Sailor Espinosa and Sailor First Class Lambert Murphy. And they are part of the Naval Security Team at Canadian Forces Base. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today for this first episode of Season 3. I'm really excited to hear about what you guys do, and I see the boats right behind us.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Master Sailor Espinosa, please share with me what motivated you to join the military and why did you pick the Navy?
Joining the military was an important task that I wanted to do in my life. When I came to Canada when I was like 17 years old, I have an interest of serving the country that was receiving me and giving me more opportunities than I had when I was born. At that point, I was start gathering all the information for me to become a Canadian citizen. Obviously, it took us several years for me to get the citizenship because you got to pass a bunch of tests. As soon as I got it, like the first week, I went to the recruiting office and I signed in to join the Navy. I thought it was very important to give back to the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you landed in Montreal, and then when you joined the military, you picked the Navy specifically.
Yeah.
Why the Navy?
The Navy has the best deployments that you can get. You can travel across the world. Obviously, in the other elements, you also have other deployments, but the Navy visits a lot of ports, and you can start knowing more about other cultures, knowing more people, and you have more contact with the public, especially now that we're doing sometimes events of recruiting, and other units or other elements don't do as much as we do.
That's awesome. And so, did you serve any time on the East Coast, or has all your time, operational time, been on the West Coast?
It's both. I went to the East Coast, but just for trainings.
Okay.
I went to a tasking. One of my first tasking was to be a translator for the Inter-Naval American Conference with all the countries of the continent, and I was doing security and translations for the public in general, especially when they were getting into the base. I was talking to everybody to join them in.
Right on.
There's people from like Peru, Brazil, etc.
Right on. So now tell me about being here at Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt, which is in British Columbia, for those that are watching from further afield. And tell me about the unit that you are a member of.
First of all,
that you both are a member of.
Yeah. First of all, coming to the West Coast was a little bit of relief of the winter, obviously, because in the East Coast it's very cold. You can get minus 27. Here, you never get that far. You get a little bit of snow. So being in this base was a relief of the weather. I came here to work directly with the warehouse, which is 702. I was helping the MCDBs. But at one point, I needed a little bit more action. I wanted more training with the weapons. I wanted to be more proficient driving boats. So I went to the Naval Security Team. Obviously, it wasn't easy to transition from a desk job to a more action job. but I managed to learn pretty much everything that needed to be learned, and here we are.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the role of the Naval Security Team, and then once you do that, if you don't mind, describe the boats that you use, one of them being right behind you.
Yeah, so the Naval Security Team, what it does protection for control access zone for international or local assets. We can also be deployed to different locations across the country, or even if international wants us to be, we can go into another country just to do port security and anything that it comes to protect the civilians or the area that we are tasked to be on.
Okay.
This is a Defender Class C boat.
Okay.
It's normally used by the U.S. Coast Guard. We got it for a unit. This allowed us to travel a max speed of between 42 to 45 knots. It depends on the weather, obviously. It has aluminum on the bottom, which allows you to acquire a proper speed. All the rubber on the side allows you to like go bump to bump, so you don't have to. For example, on the rib, you have to be careful a little bit. On this one, you can go full speed, and then you can park it on the side, no problem, and doesn't feel like you're hitting too much. It protects you on all sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
And describe some of the aspects and some of the equipment that's on board, because.
We have a FLIR camera. This allows you to see infrared. There's a lot of things on the water floating sometimes at night, because we do operations at night sometimes. And you have logs, you have fishing floats, and you gotta be careful with all that. You don't want that in your engine. So we turn it on. We have a camera inside and we can watch it. Obviously we have comms for the boat coxswain, we have comms for the navigator. We have two screens. One is for the FLIR camera, another one is your chart completely of the area that you are. You can chart points, and you can do a proper navigation like you do on your cell phone when you use your Google Maps.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same. It's a little bit more complicated because it's a different software. And it has two engines, Mercury 225. These are very good. We haven't had any problems with it since we got them. And we order more so we can replace them in case they break, but they've been here for almost 6 years now. Good engines.
Yeah, right on. And so, in a typical day-to-day operation, whether it be domestically or further afield, how many people would be on board this boat when you are doing the business?
So we have two gunners, a front gunner, a rear gunner. We need a navigator, and we need a boat coxswain. So sometimes, not all the time, we have an extra person just in case to switch the gunners. If we have a full crew, obviously we have 6 people, but if we are just regular manning, that will be between 5 to 4.
Okay, and what kind of guns do you typically utilize on board this boat?
It's the C6 machine gun.
Okay.
That's a 7.62 millimeter rounds.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Interesting. And of course the blue lights, just because...
Just to let the persons that are approaching that we're there,
Right.
so they can have flashing lights, right?
Yep.
Because some people would approach and they wouldn't know what are we doing, what we're part of. Not everybody knows that we have a Naval Security Team.
Right.
People just will approach us by curiosity. So we always polite with them. We approach them, and then we're like, "Hey, how are you? We're the Naval Security Team.
Right.
We're just in this area protecting this asset," and it's very simple. Yeah.
Right, right. And so what is the ratio roughly between you guys operating domestically and perhaps abroad? Or I guess it really depends on perhaps what's
we used to do a lot of international things at the beginning, but then COVID hit, so
Right.
we weren't allowed to travel anymore
Sure.
to other countries.
Sure.
So since COVID, we're just doing domestic operations. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, let's go on inside, and maybe you can point out some of the things that you were just describing inside.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Just be careful when you come by.
Yeah.
Because the floor is very slippery. You want to give me your hand?
Perfect.
Just be careful. Careful with the line.
you.
Careful with your feet on the line. Yeah, you're gonna bring it. No, we're good.
Perfect.
So this is where we put the C6. This is the engines. They use regular gas.
Okay.
They didn't use diesel. A lot of boats are like, oh, diesel or gas, and we're like, no, just gas.
Just gas. Yeah. A little bit more, I guess, better performance out of them, perhaps.
I'm not sure about that because I'm not I'm not a marine technician. I just know the basic on the engines. But yeah, they use regular gas and they've been functioning pretty well. We don't have a lot of like dirt on it or anything like that.
Awesome.
The volume. This is the first screen where you can have your charts. Let me use my. There you go. So it tells you your knots. You can see the distance.
Oh, it's touchscreen too. Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's another type that you can go zoom in, zoom out.
Okay.
But we don't have that one here. This is just touchscreen. This is the FLIR camera, and it's also touchscreen. You can see everything around it.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the loud hailer. You can talk.
Okay.
I'm not gonna use it because
Sure,
they're
right.
probably just resting. We have a boat back. We have all the equipment that we need. We have a blanket. We have everything in case we have to stay here for like probably 4 hours, 6 hours.
Right.
Yep. And then oh, that's
and then of course there's
this marine life.
the marine life all over this base.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a really cool job.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're out and about all the time. It seems like, and you're protecting the assets. And in fact,
Yeah.
there's like a ship right in front
Yeah.
of us. Actually,
That's one of the orcas.
Yeah, yeah. It's this is fantastic. So I guess now you and your colleague are gonna take us out for a little ride, and we'll get it.
He's basically the boat expert when
Awesome.
it comes to driving. His driving skills are very, very good.
Nice. So we'll get a little bit of a feel for what this boat can do.
Believe it or not, he can see at night.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Really appreciate it,
No
Omar.
problem.
Thank you. Here we are with Sailor First Class Lambert Murphy, and we are sitting inside the Defender, which is the boats that are used by the Naval Security Team of the Royal Canadian Navy. And so we're going to have the opportunity to get a little bit of a display or a feel for what this boat can do. But before we do, tell me about driving it and some of the experiences that you've had.
Awesome. So Sailor First Class Lambert Murphy. I've been in the Navy just short of 10 years now. I drove tons of different kind of like small boats, from small ribs to Hurricanes, Zodiacs, and warships as well. And now I'm on the Defenders. A cool thing about the Defenders is since we have 2 engines, it is very convenient for tight space because you can really make like finite movements. You can really control just like with using 1 engine at a time. You can really get precise with it. So that's something that's pretty fun using the boat. The boats are kind of like rear heavy though, so like the center of gravity is a bit more aft, as like other sailors might be used to while using the other kinds of small boats that we have.
Okay.
But you get used to it. Like if you have a bit of experience driving boats, you get used to it maybe after like 3, 4, 5 hours of like experience. But then with the Naval Security Team, we build up a lot of like high-speed skills and like interception skills that we would have in the harbors. So that's something that we build up on, and like it takes a little bit of time to get used to it.
Yeah, and speaking about training, so what is the typical process of how do you get into the Naval Security Team, and then once you get accepted into it, then what is the process? Like, how long does it take before you get qualified to be an active duty deployable member?
Absolutely. For the most part, the Naval Security Team is mainly manned by reservists. So every once in a year or like every couple of years, some of the members will reach out to the reserves unit that we have across Canada, and we will ask for people to come do our courses. So we're running different types of courses. Every reservist that comes to a Naval Security Team can be of any trade. So you can have cooks, you can have they used to call them clerks. I know it's not the proper word anymore, but
Sure.
Like any kind of jobs that you're doing, like Master Sailor Espinosa is a supply technician, or sorry, there's a new term for it as well. He came to NST and he built up through becoming a gunner and then a navigator, and then a boat coxswain. So he's qualified in all the positions, and me as well. But with my background as a bosun, definitely driving boats is kind of my bread and butter. So like I build up to that step pretty fast. So once the reservists get reached out, and then they come to the West Coast to train. Usually the courses are between 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
They're going to have a lot of gun handling training, and then lots of times at the range to try the different weapons platform that we use. And then they're going to be doing some controlled access zone training on the boats as front and rear gunner, and learning how to actually do contact reports and be an efficient crew member. And later on, they can be reinvited to do a navigator course. Well, we'll be using the Naval suite, work a lot more on the communications between all the boats and our patrol leaders. And then afterwards, you can come back to another course where it's all about the boat driving and building up the skills.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. It sounds like such a cool aspect to the Navy that even I wasn't really fully aware of.
I hear it all the time. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I heard about it all the time. I have Rec Force members that come to me all the time. They're like, Naval Security Team, what is that? And it is a bit niche, but the more people work with us, the more they get a bit of a view of it and actually get more of an interest, because it is a good tasking. It's a bit different than the regular day-to-day life on a frigate.
Right.
I mean, I come from an experience where I was on the East Coast and I deployed a few times on the frigates over there. And I spent a bunch of time in Montreal, just in the reserve unit doing recruiting and other events. But coming to the West Coast for this tasking has been pretty good so far.
That's awesome. And tell me a little bit about your history. Like, what motivated you to join the Navy?
Yeah, so when I was pretty young, I used to be in the Royal Canadian Cadets or Royal Sea Cadets. And it just kind of became a natural path in some way, where I built up some experience in the cadets as a bosun, and I got into it and liked it. And after, when I was like 16, 17, I was like, well, may as well make a bit of money out of it. So I joined the reserves, and every summer I would go on trainings, course trainings, and then going on ships to build up on my packages, get my signatures done. Allowed me to travel all across Canada like this. It was crazy. So definitely like the traveling aspect and meeting new people, like it has been super fun. And eventually I built up and I went on a few deployments. So I traveled a whole bunch of places in Europe and the Mediterranean. And now, yeah, like I don't know, for the travels and like the chance to see the world, I mean, so far it's been very nice. Yeah, for sure.
That sounds great, because there's many times you hear some of the ads, join the Navy, see the world, but it really is true.
I mean, I did see a lot of water, but I did spend a lot of times in different places and met a lot of people. So it's still people that I keep in touch with over the years, and that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah.
It is definitely not easy at times, but it is super fun at a lot of times. It's definitely goes in circles.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like any vocation or job, right? And so in that context, if somebody's watching this and they're interested in the Navy, what would be your advice to them?
I know that the Navy now is trying to make things more of a speedy entryway, so hopefully that works out for people who seeks to join. And honestly, I think the best advice I would give to someone who is coming in is a lot of people would come in with like either past experiences or none, and that's perfect. All the input is good, but just keep your head down. Do the work, do as you're told, and like if you have ideas, eventually bring them up, and I think that'll make the most out of it. This Navy has a lot to offer, and I'm just wishing for like the best of it in the future. And we do need good people. We need like eager people and like patient people as well. And yeah, I mean, if you want to build up to coming to Naval Security Team, or you want to go on deployments, you got to be patient and work towards it. Like, those are good goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely, they are. Well, Alexis, let's go for
awesome.
Let's go for
so
a ride,
I'll just fire it up. Everything is pretty much ready to go, and then I'll just do a little radio call, and
Absolutely.
then
absolutely.
tell my people to do something, and we'll be getting going.
For sure. And as you go, if you don't mind just kind of explaining some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, for
as we
sure,
get
absolutely.
going. Yeah.
So, well, when I first came in on the boats, we have 3 types of batteries: house battery for all the electronics, and the port and starboard batteries for our engines.
Okay.
So I turned them all on. They were like sitting down here, just a bunch of switches.
Gotcha.
Make sure that all my breakers are in places with the tools I want to use.
Okay.
And now my nav suite is fine. It's like been updated. Yeah. So let's just start with my radio call. So right now I'm using a VHF radio, and which pretty much every boat is required to have up to a certain size. Definitely in the Navy, we all have VHF. I'm on channel 10 right now because this is the King's Harbor Master channel, and if I want to be able to make it out a certain jetty within CFB Esquimalt Harbor, I need to tell them what my intentions are, and they can tell me if there's a traffic on the way, or like maybe some diving operation that would be required to be aware of, so I don't get in the way.
Right.
So I'll do that right now. I'll be real quick. Someone else is talking to them, so might as well start my engines. So I got my dual throttle right here. I got my port engine fired up in the back, starboard engine fired up here. I'm looking at my RPM, see that they're matching. I'm looking at my temperatures. Both of them are around 110 Fahrenheit, so that's all good. They're kind of warm already since I fired them up a bit earlier. I like to just make sure, okay, so my engine hours, because we keep count of that so we can do maintenance and everything. Mm-hmm. My trim is fine. And I like to look at my fuel levels as well, just to make sure I have enough. So I burned 8 gallons so far. This holds up to like 200 gallons, so like there's definitely enough gas in the tank, so that's awesome.
Nice.
Let's call KHM. KHM Ops, this is Defender 5, over.
Defender 5, go ahead.
Defender 5 departing Zulu 1 for the mouth of the harbor, over. Defender 5 out. Awesome. So, all right, Master Sailor Espinoza, stir in the back, ready to let go?
Ready.
All right, so now I'm asking my crew to untie my lines so I can take off. And I'll just point my nose inside the pier. Everything is good. How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Can you take it off?
Yep.
Thank you. Awesome. Perfect. So here I'm using my 2 throttles, just like splitting them at opposite ways, and it makes it like so the back of my boat is heading like this and my nose is sticking in, and then I'll go 2 back just for fun. Behind me is fine, and then my 2 throttles forward. So it makes it like super easy to take off from jetties. It's very maneuverable. So these boats were built for harbor security and defense, and they've mainly been used by the U.S. Coast Guards over the years.
Okay.
And that's who we got them from a few years ago. Yeah, no, they're little beasts. Like, they're fun.
Yeah, and it's nice that it obviously it's important, you know, in the environment that we are, that it's an enclosed cabin too. You're not just in an open, rigid hull inflatable boat.
I mean, how do you feel right now? Do you feel a bit warm?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I
it's nice and
got the
comfortable.
heater on and everything. I know we're in BC and it's not too cold yet, but the heater makes it nice. We don't have any dew on the windows anymore, so we do have that. Because sometimes our taskings were required to work overnights as well. To let's say we're protecting a warship that came in, or visiting warships, or we're somewhere else in Canada, and like we do need to maintain watch or security, 24/7. So during the night when it gets cold, it's nice to have the heater on and keep patrolling.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our viewers, just so you know, the boats that are in the background are the Orca class, and they will be covered in a future issue or a future episode of Go Bold coming up this season. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's nice to be able to see all
Cool
of this
thing
stuff.
about the Orcas, they'll probably tell you more about them, but my first few experience on either coast, well, I mean, on the West Coast, was actually on the Orca sail.
Okay.
I was like a young 18-year-old or something, and during a Thanksgiving weekend, taking off, going to Salt Spring Islands and Ganges and everything. So that's something that's pretty cool with the reserve is you join, you arrive, you do basic training, and then like next thing you know, you're in school all year long, and then on the weekend you're just flying to BC, and
Nice.
then you're coming back for the rest of the week afterwards. It's those opportunities are pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be super cool. And so this is also nice. The FLIR system that you have, or infrared. Obviously, you can operate day and night, so that helps.
Absolutely, and we do have NVG's capabilities that we can use. Nighttime is definitely a bit more tricky sometimes because it's hard to spot things, but you know we do spend time training and making sure that we get some time under our belt at night.
Yeah. If you were called upon to deploy, how quickly could you mobilize and get out the door?
I can't really give a specific time frame, but for our core crew, the people that work full time, we're switched on. Like we're training on every week. We spend, if we're not like running a course for like operator gunners or navigators or boat coxswains, we're actually doing training on the water anyway. So we're pretty switched on when it comes to that. I'm sure it would take a bit of time just for us to like turn it on in a way that we build up like a specific maybe like training schedule for that tasking. But usually like the overall training that we're doing englobes a lot of what we would be doing during those tasking. So it shouldn't be too long. I mean, it's all about like paperwork and admin and like
sure, there's always that
other
aspect,
stuff that like
right?
it's above me. But like as an operator level, I feel pretty confident that I'd be ready like pretty quick.
Right on. That's awesome. And how many? I believe we mentioned it earlier, but there's 7 of these boats.
So we have five Defender boats, and we just got from other colleagues. We got the Barracuda ribs that we'll start working with, just as using as extra boats for different kinds of training. So like let's say we would have the Defender sitting in the control access zone, or like the security zone that we're enforcing, and then we would use those Barracudas that are pretty quick boats as well, just as like embarkations that we could do interceptions on and just practice more. So we're getting more assets.
Oh, good, excellent.
So it is to say that this unit is growing. We're reaching out to more people over the Navy, and like you said, you didn't really know what NST was or Naval Security Team was. A lot of people still within the Navy are not sure, but it is growing. It is getting known. I gotta say, for my part, I've been in 10 years almost, and like I knew about NST almost right away. Like it was in the reserve. It's always been a thing that was like you kind of like knew a little bit about.
Okay.
And yeah, no, it's always been a thing cool for travels.
Yeah, you know, in total candor, I had assumed that the Naval Security Team was, I guess I kind of latched on to the security part of it and just thinking that it's like port security or whatever, but it's so much more than that.
So it is mainly harbor defense, port security, for sure, but we are a deployable force. In the past 2 years, we've been to the Okanagan Valley, Kelowna, Penticton, Nelson, places that never thought they would see the Navy around.
Right.
And we showed up, we brought our boats, and we were doing training in front of them, talking to people and making sure that they were getting an idea of who we were and what was possible. I'm always gonna like preach the reserves just because it's brought me so much. Being in school full time and being able to just go on travels during the weekends or during the summer, it helped a lot. And a lot of the expenses were covered. You know, like all of this is not something I would take back. Like it's been something very, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and so
that's why like I would have Master Sailor Espinosa as my navigator. He'd be able to spot contacts or obstacles. So we got a bunch of logs on a little bit on the far right there and a little bit close left.
Red 30.
Yeah.
Green 15.
right.
And red 15.
That's the beauty of BC. You have wood everywhere.
It must make it a challenge.
It is sometimes, especially like when we go a little bit more south and we head. I forgot the name of the island. I'm sorry, but there's places a lot. Oftentimes it's the bull kelp.
Oh,
the kelp,
right.
like there's so much of it that like if it gets like stuck in the propellers, a little bit of a cleanup.
Bit of a hassle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And so within the port itself, there's obviously speed restrictions.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I'm going pretty slow just because we're talking and everything, but it's pretty much limited to 5 knots for like this area that we're in right now. But once we're gonna be past that ship that you're pointing at, just off to the right, and past the buoys, the like entry buoys of the harbor, then we keep the speed at a safe pace.
Okay.
But technically speaking, there's no limitation afterwards.
Right, gotcha.
Alright, so pick up speed lightly up to 10 knots. So just like everyone standing up, hold on, and everyone else, we're good. I'm not gonna go past 10 knots in the harbor anyway. So.
And so on a typical tasking, you mentioned like 4 hours before. Like, what could be the maximum that you guys are called upon to be out on this boat?
Honestly, it would kind of depends. But let's say we have a tasking that's a week long or 5 days. We would try to pull 3 watches. So we would have 3 sets of personnel on the water. And like, let's say we take a look at the Asterix right now. And from a distance, we would need to enforce a control access zone of 100 meters around it. So we would have a few boats sitting in front of it, so between 2 and 3, depending on the size, depending on the requirements, depending on like what's on board and stuff like that. And we would have those boats doing patrols and roving. And then trying to slow down a bit for you, there you go. And then whenever we have, yeah, so maybe like 3 boats at a time on the water, or maybe more, maybe less. It kind of depends on the requirements.
How big it is? There's the area that we need to cover, right?
Yeah.
Like what was the one that we protected?
Yeah, we protected the super carrier of the United States last year in Halifax.
Ford. Gerald.
Gerald,
our Ford,
Ford,
the
yes.
Ford class.
And we had 3 boats around it at all times, and we had other boats at other locations with their supporting ships. So that was busy because it's not just like the ship sitting at a jetty. It was literally the warship at anchor in the middle of Halifax. So lots of traffic, lots of people to take a glimpse at, and making sure they're not getting too close. And
yeah, that would have been an interesting tasking, just seeing that carrier and knowing that you're
it was
out there
impressive.
to
It was the
protect.
biggest aircraft carrier in the world.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's insane.
So, Alexis, as part of the Naval Security Team, you spoke about some of the tools that you guys use, namely some of the guns. You can mount one up front and one at the back of these Defender boats. But tell me about some of the other tools that you guys use in your duties.
Yeah, so like Master Sailor Espinoza showed you earlier, we can use the thermal camera, so the FLIR. At night, we do have also night vision goggles we can use as well. And one of the cool things we do use, and they're pretty efficient, is whenever we want to do a jetty inspection prior to a ship coming in, or like after a ship comes in, or when the ship is there, we can use remotely operated vehicles, so underwater drones. And they're drones that kind of look like a TIE fighter from Star Wars. They're well equipped. I'm going to show you maybe later, but yeah, those drones we can use to do like a reconnaissance of the underwater. And then if we were to find something unusual, we could have some divers go down and take a look at it. So it's kind of like a first step that we can use before sending divers underwater.
Right.
Step up to that. So it's pretty cool, and yeah.
It's just another one of those tools that help you do the job that you're tasked to do,
And,
which is security, right?
Exactly. Last time I had to do a tasking on November Alpha, which is like the furthest jetty on the Esquimalt. I had to do a whole jetty sweep with the drone. Like, it took a while, but like it was pretty efficient. It was good footage.
And how long does it take to actually get like the ROV on board this boat and configured to use? Like,
It wouldn't be too long. It's pretty much like a quick set. Like, you know, like I'll show you the gear later, but we have the box with the computer, and like you use the Xbox controller to operate the drone, so it's very easy to use.
Okay.
Then you have like a tether reel, and you have the drone itself. So you connect the drone to the tether, to the tether, and then the tether to the computer. And then the Xbox controller, you start the few softwares up, and then you can use, there's a 4K camera on it. There's a 360-degree camera as well on it, so it's pretty convenient. There's a sonar on it that allows you to look at shapes underwater, so it is very useful to see what's down there. Let's say like you have like a big cinder block underwater, you would see it on the radar. Sorry, not the sonar, and you would like really see the shape like as a big shadow. So, and then you can use the camera, and there's a very good light as well. So like if the visibility in the water is pretty decent, with the light you can see a lot of things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And behind us is a frigate that's being moved around.
So with the Naval Security Team, when we're like not running a course and we're not on an op, you know, you're doing your 8 to 4, you know, it's like a normal work day. It's kind of nice to have that, but like, especially for me, after spending a few years at sea, like I prefer now maybe like having more of that small boat job and doing that. It's a bit more casual. Well, not casual, but like for me, it feels this is easy.
Better life balance.
Yeah, it's better life balance. Yeah, right on. And that's important, right? Like, I mean, I guess it really just it really depends on perspective. You know, if you want to go and see the world and be out for a long time, the frigates is the way to go. You know,
Yeah,
and,
no, for sure.
And if you want to do shorter taskings or maybe more domestic stuff, maybe the NST is the way to go. But to me, that just speaks about the breadth of the Royal Canadian Navy and the things that you're able to do. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
And then in the background there is one of the subs.
Okay.
Hey everybody, here we are at the Naval Security Team headquarters at Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt. And we just got off the Defender boats that the Naval Security Team uses. And I'm joined with Alexis, who is the pilot of the Defender. You look a little bit different without the helmet, but so Alexis, thank you so much for taking us out. And now, when we were on the boat, we were talking a little bit about some of the tools that you use. And the tools are weapons and also an ROV, among other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here you are going to demonstrate an ROV for us.
Yes. It goes to show that NST's operators have like a lot of diversity in the trainings, as much as like in different weapon systems or different tools. So we're pretty, we have a big, vast skill set. So the ROV is an underwater remotely operated vehicle or a little drone. It has a few tools on its tool belt. We do have like a claw that we can use to go pick up small items or to move things around a little bit. There is a battery encasing, there's a 4K camera here, and there's a 360-degree camera that makes it look like a little bit like a fisheye view if you want to look at the recording here. So we can get like an underhand view of jetty or boats. And we also have a sonar on top to detect things underwater. It's pretty straightforward to use. We use an Xbox controller with, yeah, it's pretty basic. It's like playing a video game pretty much. Like one of the triggers will go up, one of the other ones will go down. You go straight forward, back, and everything. So you can like actually like adjust your depth, point in different directions, and use the your ROV that way. Whenever it's like very sunny out, either from the boat or from a jetty, we can use this small headset. It's not like a total VR headset, but it just displays what you see on the screen in the headset, but at least you can be covered from like the sun and everything, and actually be able to see what you're doing. And like I was saying downstairs, you can actually like connect the ROV to a small power-driven vessel, like a small outboard engine, like a small Zodiac, and actually get the ROV to tow you. So you could be using a boat totally silently because it'd just be like propulsed by electric propulsion here.
Right on. And just for clarification, this ROV is tethered to the boat that you're operating it from.
Exactly. So we would have the computer case inside the boat. We would have over here the tether reel connected and like tied up to the boat, and then the tether reel would give away some lines to the ROV on the water, and it can go to a pretty big depth, like 100 feet or so, or depending on the tether length, it can go longer. The problems with these kinds of tethers is like the longer you go in length, then the more time the data will take to process, so the more latency you would create. But in the meantime, for all our purposes, when it comes to like 100 feet, so 30 meters depth, it's usually good enough for our main uses, but it is possible to get more length, but again, having more latency.
Right. Interesting. Well, that is a super cool piece of kit that that the Naval Security Team uses. You know, it's not just you guys driving around in boats. So Alexis, you're going to show off some of the equipment that you guys use in the Naval Security Team.
All right, so safety is key, right? Safety is always our biggest thing. And as our operators are being on the water for hours on end and inside the boats, we do need to be properly equipped. So basically, this is an like a bit of a layout of what we would use. So we would have armor plates for armor plates with the different like ammo pouches that we can use. We have a few different models that we're trialing over the last few years. So this one is a pretty nice one, kind of minimalist, but very comfortable to wear. We do have boat helmets, fast helmets, for head protection, get that noggin well protected. We got the life jackets that are basically like military issued, the HGLJ, CO2 cartridges that would make it inflate if we were to get on the water, and it keeps the head above the water as well, so you make sure that the people stay safe. Most of our gunners, when we're outside, especially when it gets like below 15 degrees and the water's cold or the weather is a bit in a more precarious state, we have dry protective layers. So those are sealed covers with neoprene sleeves, neoprene neck. That's all enclosed. If you want to go all the way down, all the way to the feet, so it would go and cover everything. And then we would have a gun belt with a holster for a 6-hour 9mm, and plus the jacket, plus the ammo plates, plus the HGLJ. We got some knee pads. It's always good to protect your knees as well. Ballistic eyewear. Sometimes we would have ear protection as well if we're doing gunfires and everything, or like especially when we're training. Mm-hmm. So we want to protect our earring. We also, I don't have it on display, but like have specific headsets for it. VHF radio, UHF radios. For the gunners, it's to keep in touch with what's going on around you and inside. And for the navigators, it's to keep in touch as well with your patrol leader. So we have like a lot of like redundancy when it comes to communication. So like everybody has a radio, everybody has access. Well, on the boats we have the VHF and the UHF to talk to a wider range of people around us. Here we would have a sling that we would connect to the mount and to the gunner using a harness, and it would make it so that the gunner doesn't have to have 3 points of contacts at all times to hold on to the boats. He will actually be tethered to the mount. So as you're going left and right and bringing up speed, you actually have that safe connection to the vessel. And they're quick release. So if there was a situation that would arise that the gunner would need to get out of his thing quickly, it's just a slight pull with a little bit of pressure. It comes off super easily. So it's a very efficient, it's very solid, and keeps us safe.
Right on.
Do you have any questions about the gear, sir?
This has been fantastic, Alexis. Thank you so much for sharing some of the tools that the Naval Security Team uses. This is awesome.
Absolutely,
and
sir.
then in case that you need to exert some more force if necessary. The boats, as we described when we were on board, have a gun mount in the front and in the back.
Absolutely. So I can show you this right there. Let's move some case around. So our gun operators would be using a C6 or C9 gun mounts like this one. And this is a dummy version of the weapon, so there's no problem at all for me like pointing in any directions. We would put our casings around. So this one is a replica of a C6 GPMG machine gun, and it hosts 7.62 caliber rounds. So usually what we would have, let's take a look at the dummies for fun. They're backed up and everything, so let's not bother too much. They would have an ammunition belt of about 220 rounds, and every 4 rounds there would be a tracer. So what happens is, like, when you're on the water, I'm pretty tall, but I can adjust the height of the mount itself.
Okay.
So the posts that you see here were what we're sitting at the front and the back of the boat, and then we can slot the whole mount inside of it, put the weapons at the top, and then use it in the reverse way. So it goes about 270 degrees. And with the weapons at the front of the vessel and one at the back, we can cover 360 degrees of our position. And yeah.
That's awesome. And how often are you guys training with the weapons to be proficient with them?
So like I was saying on the boat, the gunner courses run for about 6 to 8 weeks, and they spend most of that part like getting trained on the different weapon systems that we may use. So those goes all the like basic military, Canadian military, so like the C8, the 6-hour 9mm, and a bit of the C9 as well, which are usually in the Navy used by bosuns for force protection on board the ships. But NST is pretty particular because we're the only ones having the C6 7.62 used as often as we do. It's a bigger caliber machine gun. It is very, just looking for my right word, it is very trustable. Like, it's not a weapon that like you will need to bother too much. You put just a bunch of oil in it and it's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, and I guess that's important because you're out on the water, and so, you know.
Exactly, the salt water spray and everything, like,
right.
So it gets
Right.
gunky.
Right.
But those weapons are pretty straightforward and easy to clean as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Alexis, thank you so much for taking the time to share some of the tools that you guys use in the Naval Security Team. And thank you for taking us out on the water and demonstrating your boat. It was a wonderful, beautiful day to be out on the water, and I really appreciate you sharing what the Naval Security Team does. You and Omar have been wonderful ambassadors for the team, so thank you very much.
Absolutely. If anybody's interested, feel free to reach out to us. And the first step is always force.gc.ca, and join us.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Appreciate it.